Hey there, HBO overlords. That's a thing us cool kids call big corporations that we're afraid of but have to interact with regardless. You probably don't know who we are, so I figured now is as good a time as any to get acquainted, especially since those rumors about a Batman the Animated Series revival have been circulating for a month or two now. For the last 5 years, my cohorts and I have been living in the btas world, and I mean this almost as literally as possible. We eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Whether it be through fan theory videos, animations, scripting our own stories to fill in the gaps between Batman the Animated Series spin-offs, weaving an intricate timeline, or losing our minds over minuscule continuity errors like Baby Doll's age, we've really done it all.
The Zeta Project, all new this Saturday.
Well, okay, we've done it all except for videos on the Zeta Project. Regardless, when we heard the news about a possible return to Batman the Animated Series, of course we got excited. But I've gotta be honest, we're also kind of hesitant. Not because we fear it'll be bad, but because it's possible that it may just miss the mark of what made these shows so special in the first place. Perhaps these fears are unfounded. After all, these are just rumors we're dealing with. We don't know anything about the production so far. We don't know who may be involved, or really if this will ever come to fruition at all. For all we know, the whole original gang will be coming back and all will be right with the world. Bruce Timm sure did seem like he was open to the idea recently.
At the same time, if I got a really good opportunity to do something more in those worlds, I probably would not be able to resist the temptation to do it.
Paul Dini and Alan Burnett have been hammering out more stories set in this world as of late, and with Kevin Smith suggesting that he's in the know on the project,
HBO Max is looking at making a Batman the Animated Series sequel. They want to continue that forward.
Kevin knows something.
it sounds as if the btas alumni who have been working on Masters of the Universe with him might very well be returning to their roles as well. All of these things on their face are incredibly exciting, but also give a lot of reasons for fans to pause for a second. I want to be clear here. I respect all of these cats that gave us the original Bats, but having seen them return to this world recently has been a bit of a mixed bag. And Bruce Timm's animated return in Batman and Harley Quinn received a pretty mixed reception from fans, mostly leaning towards a negative reaction, and it's easy to see why.
Smells like discipline.
On top of that, Dini and Burnett's return for Batman The Adventures Continue started out feeling as though it would be a bright spot in an otherwise dreadful year. But as great as parts of it were, as time went on, things felt less in line with the animated universe that we know and love, and more like a generic Batman story that had the animated design slapped on in order to service an action figure line that was mostly left in production limbo. This was something that many of our audience were warning us would be the case, and we initially refused to take it to heart because it's Dini and Burnett. We know these guys work. We love these guys' work. But somewhere between an underwhelming Jason Todd origin, rehashing the origin of this world's Tim Drake, who was already an amalgam of Jason and Tim from the comics, Batman assaulting a dead woman, undercutting the emotional weight of Return of the Joker via Bruce continuing to let more children take on the mantle after this, and the Joker modernizing his pop culture references, the series kind of lost its shine. If I'm being honest, the best return to this world in recent memory was 2019's Justice League vs. the Fatal Five, and I wholly believe that a large reason for that is bringing new blood into the room via writer Eric Carrasco. We've talked with Eric about his time on that film, and like us, he seems to have grown up on the world that Tim, Dini, Burnett, and others pioneered. The dude is a super fan. He was trying to make this thing work in the Batman animated universe before they even decided the art style for his script. And honestly, if this new Batman the Animated Series project is real, I think that's a huge necessity. New blood, super fan blood, and maybe us?
No, wait. Is this whole video gonna be about us trying to get jobs at Warner Brothers and oversee all future DCAU projects? That's not going to work, no matter how many members of our audience have been asking for exactly that over the years. Maybe we should switch gears for a little bit, put some ideas out there for the show, talk about what it means to us, and why we want to see it succeed, why we've been making content that almost exclusively covers the world of Batman the Animated Series and its spin-offs for the past half a decade. Yeah, maybe that's the way to go here.
When I was little, my parents sheltered me from Batman because of the more adult burden films. But when I found the Adventures of Batman and Robin, the Riddler tape at my Uncle Buck's house, the floodgates opened, and my cousins introduced me to the animated Gotham City. By the time I was 6 years old, I had Batmania. In kindergarten, I participated in a science fair, where I built a papier-mâché planet Krypton and told the story of Superman's creation. As part of my research, my mom took me to Kingdom Comics in Birmingham, Alabama, my first step into a nerdy paradise. I was supposed to leave with a Superman book for my school project, but I ended up with Gotham Adventures #5 instead. Then came the action figures. I had mismatched Batman characters from all sorts of lines. The animated series, movies like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, Legends of the Dark Knight. I took a full backpack to show and tell, where my classmates learned all about Killer Croc and Penguin Man. Throughout elementary school, I rushed home to catch the new Batman and Superman adventures, which I asked my mom to tape record for me since it started right when school let out. I usually missed the first few minutes, but I wore those tapes out on the rewatch. When Justice League was announced, I was in heaven. I knew Super Friends, but just discovered the JLA with issue number 51 on my local supermarket's comic spinner rack. I followed every episode, subscribed to the JLA Adventures comic for mail delivery, collected the entire Mattel toy line until it became JLU, and was a massive lurker on Toonzone's DC Animation forum, where I could speculate with others on future episodes, and occasionally read replies from showrunners like Bruce Timm himself. I was more active and involved on forums like DCAU Animated and SuperBuddies.net, where I met James years before launching the Watchtower Database. Little did my parents know that talking with strangers on the internet started a YouTube career that allowed me to meet some of the writers, artists, and actors who created the cartoons I love. Late in high school, I started writing comic scripts that continued lingering plot threads from the DCAU, in the form of a JLU Season 4 comic intended for the DC Hall of Justice website. Though the art was never finished, the process instilled a love for writing that prompted me to earn a bachelor's degree in creative writing. For me, the DCAU has always been a place I could visit to rediscover happiness and hope, no matter what else was going on around me. I believe it to be the purest interpretation of DC Comics superheroes ever realized. And if HBO Max returns to Gotham for more Batman the Animated Series, I hope they bring along people like us, who grew to have Batman and the DCAU ingrained in their DNA to an extent that would astonish even Cadmus Labs.
Bring them back, or I'm calling in the squad to put them down.
As far back as I can remember, the Batman animated world has been a part of my life. I remember birthday cakes with Batman and Robin figurines on them, decorating the Christmas tree with my mom while Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero was playing in the background, the emotional distraught of a younger me misplacing a Batgirl action figure that I never found again. But despite the show's importance in my formative years, it wasn't until adulthood that I feel that I actually got it. Back in 2011, I was having a really rough go of things. For a while, I was in an abusive living situation, money was tight, and despite having 3 jobs, for a short amount of time, I was shoplifting for survival. Eventually, I was busted, and one of the jobs fired me. My overnight job began to interfere with my college work, so I had to quit. Then a paperwork error led to my college classes being dropped, and the cherry on top of it all, after arranging a new living situation, without notice, the new roommate skipped town with the boss of job number 3, a job that ultimately shut down since the owner felt finding a new manager was just more problems than it was worth. Scared of potentially becoming homeless for a second time, as soon as my probation was served, I skipped town to move in with my mom. Luckily, I now had a lot more free time, and to cope with the loss of my social circle back home, I dove headfirst into media that I missed out on in childhood. I had bought the Batman the Animated Series Volume 1 DVD set long before getting to this point, and had watched it over and over and over, and was excited to have time to see what came next. This is when I finally watched Justice League Unlimited for the first time, and everything clicked. This went from being a couple of superhero cartoons that I grew up with, to a fully realized, fleshed out world where everything mattered. A world world where we got to watch characters grow as the audience grew. A world with emotional stakes and thought-provoking storytelling. I became fully immersed in this world and found myself deeply caring about these characters. Even so, that early 20s version of me would have never anticipated sharing my love for this world with over 66,000 other people who care about it just as much as I do. It's truly hard to wrap my mind around.
Don't worry, Z. We'll find a way.
My introduction to btas? Where to start? I could talk about the time where I was like 5 and I was staying at my great uncle's lakeside cabin and someone plopped me down in front of Fox Kids and I watched a Two-Face episode. I can't possibly tell you which one it was. I could tell you about the time a few years later when I sat huddled under a blanket on my grandma's couch as I watched Clayface melt in the front seat of a car. But I think the best place to start would be when I was 8 or so and my mom bought me the Robin VHS tape off the discount rack at Fred Meyer. I watched that tape more times than it should be possible for a tape to be played. I think this was my first real palpable experience with the show. And what a way to jump in. The episode on that tape, Robin's Reckoning, won an Emmy after all. I'm not sure if it was because I was able to connect to young Dick Grayson or if I really did grasp how emotionally heavy the episode is. But either way, I couldn't get enough of it, and it led to a small eventual collection of that tape, the Poison Ivy one, Mask of the Phantasm, and the Batman Superman movie. And that rotation became on infinite loop, as well as like Aladdin and Lion King and Toy Story, I don't know. I started nabbing action figures here and there. I had a pretty reasonable childhood experience with these shows, all things considered. Then one day I spent several hours downloading a 200 pixel wide QuickTime file of a promo for the Justice League cartoon on my grandparents' dial-up. Oh my god, there was no way I was going to miss this. I videotaped every single episode of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited throughout their airtime, except Secret Society, of course, because Cartoon Network changed the schedule on me, so I had no idea when it was going to be starting, and I turned on the TV like halfway through part 2, and boy was I an angry 10, 11, 12-year-old little boy. If I wore out the tapes I'd had before, these were dust, metaphorically. I don't know how my VCR didn't actually just break. And I started making fan websites with extremely crude HTML, which is a project I'm still working on today, coming soon to a much better web browser than we had in 2001. I was even part of fan forums and art boards all the way back then, when I probably shouldn't have been talking to strangers on the internet. Oops. So what I really think speaks to the quality of the DC animated universe, including Batman the Animated Series, is that it perseveres. I'm still as big of a fan of it today as I was 20 plus years ago, maybe even bigger, both because I am a physically larger human being and because I run a YouTube channel all about this stuff. I am extremely lucky to be doing what I do today. I have a wife, a son, a home, a family that loves and supports me, all while I sit at my computer every day and edit stupid Batman videos. But they're not stupid, not really. Robin's Reckoning taught me that holding on to the past can be poisonous if not for the right reasons. I choose to focus on what made me happy then because it still makes me happy today. So hey, WB people, if you're gonna make more Batman the Animated Series, do it for the right reasons. Do it because it makes you, the directors, writers, animators, producers, composers, happy. Because if it doesn't, is it worth it?
After an 8-year pause when Justice League Unlimited ended in 2006, 2014 brought about a new Batman Beyond short. And while it was only a little over a minute long, it gave me and many others hope that we'd eventually be seeing new animated content from this world. Of course, time went on and well, maybe it's hard to fully appreciate the newer stuff, but it's a bummer for that hope that I had in 2014 to now be replaced with skepticism. Will a return to Batman the Animated Series allow us to feel as if these characters have grown? As if their prior adventures have any bearing on their new ones? Or will the audience be asked to forget that Batman and Wonder Woman have been flirtatious with each other? That there's a Batwoman or 3 in Gotham? That the Joker is dead and Nightwing left the Bat family for his new home in Bloodhaven? Will modernizing the property mean HBO Max product placement and more zany references to current pop culture like Family Guy? Or will it mean tackling more adult stories that they couldn't in the 90s, like the focus on mental health that we saw in Justice League vs. the Fatal Five? The DCAU means so much to so many people, and as much as I'd love to see the band get back together, if they're going to be as lax about it as they've been with recent outings, then maybe there should be a strong group of superfans in the room to remind them why this world is so important to us. I have zero preconceived notion that those superfans would end up being us at the Watchtower Database. To be honest, Mr. HBO Overlord, I don't think we're even on your radar. Just please, whoever is working on this thing, don't mess it up.
The money's not important. Getting Dick back is.